What is good with the YouTube? It is your boy Sean Rock to the represent mandatory thrive, because every day it is mandatory for us to thrive, and I am back again with another video. And I would like to talk about boxing today, particularly the welterweight division. Now let's jump straight into the welterweight division. I won't be able to name all the different names, but I'm gonna name some of the top guys that's there. You got Adrian Broner, who jumps in and out of the welterweight division. He's at 140, but he can be mentioned in this conversation. We got Adrian Broner, Danny Garcia, Amir Khan, Devin Alexander, Victor Ortiz. We have Sean Porter, Danny Garcia. I'll probably say Danny Garcia. We have Keith Thurman, now Crawford, Jeff Horn, Manny Pacquiao, if you want to throw him in there. And then we have Errol Spence, Lamont Peterson. I'm probably missing a few guys in there, but generally speaking, the main four top guys, in my personal opinion, would be Keith Thurman, Errol Spence, Errol Spence, Crawford, even though he hasn't fought at 147. Keith Thurman, Errol Spence, Crawford, and Sean Porter. Those will be the top four guys, in my personal opinion, at this particular time. So it's a pretty stacked division with a lot of solid talent. It's not just that it's a lot of solid talent there. Like 154 was pretty stacked with talent, skill. However, the name component was always lacking as far as 154. However, at this particular time, there's a lot of big names in the welterweight division and big talent. And there's also a lot of past guys, former champions from, the Mayweather and Pacquiao time, that is fighting for, to become relevant in the welterweight division. So I want to talk about the landscape of the welterweight division and who I believe to be the top guys in my reasonings. So at this particular time, I feel like Keith Thurman is the top guy in the welterweight division. Here's why. Not just because he has two belts, but he's also showed the most versatility in his arsenal out of all of the welterweights, apart from Crawford, in my opinion. But I've only seen it at 140. I haven't seen it at 147. So back to Keith Thurman. He showed a solid boxer punching, fighting ability. He showed that he can come forward and that he can move backwards. Keith Thurman has a tendency to get a little sloppy. He can be flat-footed at times, but he makes up for some of his sloppy technique with his impressive athleticism. And if you know anything about sports, anything about fitness or anything like that, you know that some people lack a lot of fundamental abilities or technical skill, and they make up for it with a lot of athleticism. But I put Keith Thurman as my #1 welterweight currently, based on his ability to fight coming forward and backwards, his punching power ability, and his mental fortitude to make adjustments. And he's beat the most current champions at this time in the welterweight division, as far as like the new guys. My second welterweight, in my opinion, would be Errol Spence. And my reasoning for Errol Spence being #2 at this particular time, because he's a less accomplished fighter on paper at this particular time. But that's not the only reason. The second reason is because I feel like he is not as well-rounded as Keith Thurman. He doesn't have natural athletic ability like Keith Thurman. And when someone is technically sound and fundamentally sound, that doesn't mean they're athletic. Errol Spence is a little bit more robotic in his moves, but his fundamentals, his basics, and his technique is much more sharp and crisp than Keith Thurman and a lot of the other guys in this welterweight division. But some people can mistake that with natural athletic ability, which Errol Spence lacks some natural athletic ability. He does not move his head whatsoever. Whenever he gets hit, he goes back into a straight line. However, his vicious determination, and he's not like a GGG fighter who just comes forward and is vicious, but is based on the other fighter being fearful. You know, Spence, he has great punch placement from bottom to top. He started to tee off a lot on Kell Brook in the fight, where he was landing shots coming up and down, and he was breaking Kell Brook down. So he's not even really that much of a big puncher. It's just the vicious onslaught and consistency and the variation of technique that puts him on another level. And another thing that Errol Spence has on his side is he's a lot fresher and he's a lot stronger, physically stronger than a lot of the welterweights. He's very solid and basic, and this is I think this is the biggest reason a lot of fighters don't like. Let me get off topic. Mikey Garcia does not do anything super great, but in the Adrian Broner fight, the challenge that Adrian Broner was faced with was how fundamentally technically sound and basic that Mikey Garcia was. He's just got straight tunnel vision. So this is what Errol Spence, in my personal opinion, has, and on top of the fact that he's extremely strong and he's fundamentally sound and he stays composed in the heat of the moment. But my third top welterweight, even a guy who hasn't even fought yet, would have to be your boy Terrence Crawford. And I feel like Terrence Crawford, he has everything that these other fighters have. He's a solid boxer, puncher. He can box, he can bang, he can fight on the inside, he can fight on the outside. He does have a tendency to get a little sloppy because he has some of that natural Keith Thurman type of athleticism. His ring IQ is solid. This guy is just extremely gifted fighter, and he just kind of washed through 140. And every fight he just pretty much made it look easy. I think one of his toughest fights that I personally seen him in was the Gamboa fight. And as the competition and the how could I put it, the tides rise, he rose to the occasion every time. So I just feel like Terrence Crawford is, in my personal opinion, the all-around most fundamentally sound, athletic, a well-rounded fighter out of all of these guys. However, he has not fought at 147, and we don't know how he's going to adjust. Like, you got guys like Adrian Broner. Like, there's fighters who are, you know, it's hard for them to make weight, but they're really small welterweights, and they're not really big enough to, in my personal opinion. You got Danny Garcia, Adrian Broner, Floyd Mayweather, Pacquiao. These are small guys. These are what I would call the little guys in the welterweight division. And you got these huge guys like Spence, Keith Thurman, and Porter. Like, these is big, solid, full welterweights, right? So we'll just have to see how Crawford adjusts to fighting at 147, and is his frame going to fill out, you know, and his punching power going to be able to sustain himself at 147. And then my fourth fighter would have to be Sean Porter. And I put Sean Porter there just based on just pure will. You have some guys who just, they have that fire, they have that intensity, and they have that desire to be the best that they can be. And they're going to work, very, very hard to keep their name relevant. So I think Sean Porter deserves to be there based on, his desire and his will to be there. He has decent, work ethic. He's a hard worker. He fights rough and rugged and raw on the inside, and he's a great, come forward type of fighter, brawler type fighter, leads with his head and all of those different things. So those are my top 4. Honorable mention. Oh yeah, talk about the Kell Brook. I personally felt like Kell Brook wasn't a welterweight. Me personally, after he won the belt from Sean Porter, he was teetering around being in the welterweight division, and I personally believe it was due to his struggle to make welterweight. I personally feel like he didn't never feel strong, and just because of fight, like, you have to look at the frame of fighters. Kell Brook has real big bones. He's a solid guy. Spence and Thurman and all, these guys are just not as massive, muscular as Kell Brook. I think he should have, before he even fought Triple G, or I think he should have vacated his belt before even Spence was mentioning, and that he should have moved up to 154. But financial gain is a part of being a prize fighter, and I think that even before Spence was mentioned, I think that the priority to stay at 147 was because that was the limelight, the golden division at the time, and he wanted to stay in that division. Now here's another thing before the honorable mention. I would say the honorable mention would be Danny Garcia and Adrian Broner. These two guys have the ability to be in this mix if they desire to, but they're smaller, and we'll have to see if they can make the adjustments to deal with these bigger fighters. In my personal opinion, I really don't know. But here's the thing that I wanted to talk about. We can't crown anyone until these fights happen. We can go based on the eye test and the assessment, but this is what I think. Any of those top 3 fighters, Errol Spence, Keith Thurman, Terrence Crawford, can come out on top. Only time will tell. There's many different ways that those fighters can win the fight and be the last guy standing. We just have to see. My personal opinion, who I think will be standing last, Terrence Crawford. I'm going to go on record to say I think Terrence Crawford is going to be the man at 147. I could be wrong. I like Thurman, the most out of the bunch, just my preference. But from eye test, I gotta give it to Crawford. And I guess this year we will really see how he adjusts when he fights Jeff Horn, because Jeff Horn is no pushover. That's a big young man right there. So he got a tough, tall test in front of him. Just a big guy. So we're gonna see what happens. I look forward to seeing these fights unfold, and I keep, giving y'all more information on boxing as I keep, grinding it out. So remember, dream big, work hard, live great, don't stop. It's your boy Sean Rock Tutter. I'm out. Peace.